What is up, guys? I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out r// IDontWorkHereLady. If you're new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe, just maybe, that notification bell. And with that being said, let's get straight into today's stories. Much love, guys. Our first story is from Ambitiously Yours. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I do apologise if I got it wrong. I'm 9 months pregnant and wearing a suit. No, I don't work at this drugstore, sir. Long-time lurker of this sub, first-time poster. Honestly, never thought it would happen to me. I was in a generic drugstore/pharmacy yesterday after work to pick up some more muscle balm for my back. I'm 9 months pregnant and clearly heavily pregnant, doing the waddle and all, and dressed in a suit because my job requires it. Suit jacket unbuttoned because, lol, haven't been able to close that for about 4 months now. I'm on the phone to my mum because she and I have a daily ritual of checking in with each other after work every day. I started doing it when she lived alone to make sure she was okay, then just continued doing it when she got a live-in boyfriend. As I'm walking up a random aisle to make my way to the counter to pay, talking to my mum with my cell phone in one hand and muscle balm in the other, a gentleman blocks me in the aisle and says, "Where are the razors?" Now he's looking right at me, and we're the only two in the aisle, so I know he's talking to me, but I can't imagine why. I respond with, "I'm not sure, pardon me though, I'd like to get by." Dude doesn't move, just stares at me for a minute. It's at this point when I have to ask my mum to hold on because I want all my focus on this dude as I'm beginning to feel unease. Finally, "What do you mean you don't know?" I respond with, "Sir, I just came to get some muscle balm and would really like to pay for my purchase and leave. Please let me through the aisle." Then he takes another good, long look at me and finally says, "You don't work here." At this point I'm just annoyed, tired and wanting to get on with my life, and my stomach is too big to squeeze past him because he still has not moved. So I get kind of snippy. "Sir, I'm 9 months pregnant and wearing a suit and heels while talking on my cell phone. What made you think I work here?" He finally just stared at me dumbfounded and stepped to the side a bit. So I waddled as fast as my fat pregnant ass could past him and booked it to the front cashier. Not super dramatic, but it really took me off guard because, well, I never thought I'd encounter someone so oblivious. Who knew? Our next story is Robin with a Y. Security, step aside please. The current primary race reminded me of this event. In 2018, I volunteered on my state's Lieutenant Governor's campaign, so in 2019, an organisation that I belonged to was having a state convention. Since I had volunteered on this campaign, I was asked if I could arrange for the Lieutenant Governor to speak at the group's convention. Luckily, the Lieutenant Governor was available to be the keynote luncheon speaker, so I was asked to be the one to introduce him. I was not able to attend the morning session of the convention, so I arrived shortly before the luncheon, but prior to the Lieutenant Governor arriving. So the event chairman took me into the luncheon room to show me where I'd be sitting and where the Lieutenant Governor would be sitting during lunch, and we went over a few details. I then went out and waited for the Lieutenant Governor to arrive. I was standing where I could watch the door he would use to enter the building. I had a Bluetooth earpiece in one ear, listened to an audiobook while I waited. I was dressed in professional attire and had a lanyard around my neck, with my driving licence and a few other items in it. Earlier I had to go to a few government offices and didn't carry a handbag because they always had to be searched before entering those buildings. Anyway, while I was waiting, two older ladies, 70s plus, are standing near me and I realised they were discussing who I might be. They decided my Bluetooth was something like Secret Service might wear and that my Yanlad must have a badge on the back side, therefore I must be part of the Lieutenant Governor's security detail. The Lieutenant Governor's security detail was a pair of uniformed state troopers. I don't think he needs too much more security. Of course, as soon as the Lieutenant Governor arrived, I went to greet him and let him and his assistant know that I would be shown in their seats for luncheon. I then went and stood by the banquet room doors while he went around shaking hands and greeting people. This seemed to confirm to the ladies I was indeed part of his security detail. After the luncheon they arrived, came up to speak to me and tell me how they were just sure I was part of the Lieutenant Governor's security detail because I looked so professional and in charge, and they were excited to see a woman in such an important position. We shared a laugh or two, and later that evening they bought me a glass of wine since I was no longer on security detail. They turned out to be very sweet ladies who both enjoy reading Tom Clancy style books. Nothing dramatic, just two older ladies looking for a little intrigue in their daily lives. You gotta love a sweet old lady story, right? Our next story is from Road Rascal. That's not my tanker truck, lady. Just discovered this sub and holy loot fist dinner. I don't know what that means. Have I got a doozy from a couple of months ago? Short backstory, I just got off a 14-hour shift. I work for a utility company, and this took place about 5 AM in a smaller suburb of the Twin Cities in January. I stopped for gas at the local Stop and Rob and a few snacks for my upcoming shift at 2 PM. Another 14-hour shift, lots of overtime. I pull into the station and the tanker truck is there for a delivery. I get up, fuel up my run-of-the-mill boring box on wheels and started to go into the store. About 5 feet from the entrance I hear a slight squealing of tyres and watch the monstrosity of an SUV, Lincoln Navigator I think, roar around the tanker and park about 1 foot behind it. I was already beat tired and didn't really think of anything of it, since people do drive a little nuts around here. I'm in the store looking at what kind of garbage I can eat for the day and maybe a couple of energy drinks for later that night. This is when the fun begins. Me, CL Crazy Lady, SD Sheriff's Deputy. The Crazy Lady says, "Hey you, hey!" I turn my head to look at the lady staring right at me. She said, "You need to move your truck." Me, with a puzzled look on my face. "Yes, I'm talking to you. You need to move your truck now." Me, pointing to the salt-crusted SUV at pump 5. "You mean that car?" "No, the tanker truck. It's blocking the tyre pump. My tyre light is on and I need to fill it up now. I'm in a big hurry." Funny thing is, those tyre fillers have about a 20-foot retractable hose on them. I said, "That's not my semi." "I just watched you walk inside 30 seconds ago." To which I said, "That's not my truck." Now I'm beginning to wonder why she thought I was the truck driver. We probably have the same high-vis yellow coats with the silver reference stripes that's just as common as blaze orange during deer season. "That's not my truck. I don't work here, and get the hell away from me." At this point, one of the local sheriff deputies walks in right before I say get the hell away from me. I see them here quite a bit in the morning to get coffee. The sheriff deputy walks over and asks, "Is there a problem here?" "This guy needs to move his truck. It's blocking the tyre pump. I'm in a big hurry and one of my tyres is low." I say to the sheriff deputy, "My car is over there on pump 5 and I don't know why this lady thinks I'm the semi-driver." At this point, I'm wondering where the driver is. Either in the back office doing paperwork or destroying one of the toilets in the restroom. The sheriff says to the crazy lady, "Okay, show me what you're talking about." They both go outside and walk to the back of the tanker truck. I pay for gas and my snacks, and here comes the truck driver out of the restroom. It's probably going to need power washing. As I'm walking out to my car, I see the deputy pointing to the back of her car, and they were talking about something. I couldn't hear them. SD and CL walked back inside the store just as the truck driver was walking out. Yep, he was wearing a similar high-vis coat. I put the snacks in my car, and now curiosity has struck me. I walk over to CL's SUV and saw that it has whiskey plates on them. Maybe it's her, maybe it's her husband's, don't know. Then I saw it. I couldn't believe my eyes. The fucking license plate showed October 2018. They were 14 months expired. I got a good laugh from that, and I hope CL got a ticket for the expired tabs. I went home and got some rest. Our next story is from Ben Hune. Again, I don't know if I got that one right. We're in an adult store, but not that type of adult store. NSFW involved, and no big climatic, ending. But I thought that it might fit here anyway. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. This also happened about an hour and a half ago. Just so everyone knows, the store I work at, one of my 2 jobs, is a plus size clothing store for women. My co-worker and I are the only 2 in store, and the phone starts ringing. I look at it and it says anonymous, and I'm like, oh boy, I bet this is a spam caller. I answer it saying, "Thank you for calling. This is Ben-Hoon. How can I help you today?" There's a guy on the other side and he goes, "Hi, I have a weird question for you, like it's really kind of weird." I'm a little thrown off, but I let him continue, telling him, "It's okay, ask away, how can I help?" So with another pervasive that it's weird, he goes on to a tangent about kink and fetish, and talking about voyeurism, and learning people aren't who you think they are through this type of voyeurism. And while he's not getting into depth, it's still NSFW enough that it seriously threw me off. I've had my share of weird things happen in my life, that by this point I'm like, this might as well happen to me. I couldn't get a word in edgeways as he started rambling about this fetish, trying to figure out if it was straight up voyeurism or something else, because he wasn't sure if the kink came from voyeurism or it came from finding out that this person that you thought was vanilla wasn't. He finished talking and I'm frozen in my spot and my co-worker is asking me what is happening. I look at her and hold a finger up and focus back on the guy on the phone. He goes, "Well, have you heard of this kind of kink? So you have any idea what this might be?" And I go, "No sir, I don't unfortunately, I've never heard of that." And I haven't, so I wasn't lying. And he goes, "Oh wow, really? That stinks. Do you know of any place that might know about something like this?" I say, No I don't sir, I really need to get back to work. I'm an employee of a plus size clothing store. There's a pause, and I'm sure he's taking in what I just said. Oh my god, I thought you were an adult lingerie store. When I went to Google, it listed you as an adult store that sells lingerie. I can't believe that you didn't stop me. I'm so sorry. It's okay. I've had wilder stuff happen to me before. I'm not judging, but we're not that type of adult store. We just sell plus size clothing, and we do have some sleep lingerie, but nothing super sexual or sexy. He apologises a few more times, with me telling him it's okay, it happened, and he hangs up. I relay what just happened to my coworker, and she shakes her head and says, I would have just hung up. I shrug and say, probably should have, but I was just taken off guard. And so we move on with our night, and I have a news story to share. Again, sorry if it doesn't totally belong here, but I thought it was interesting enough to share. That reminds me of a story in one of my very first jobs, where I was working in a completely different department, but there was a big call centre and we had to sit in on a few of the phone calls. And well, it was insurance for like sofas and stuff like that. And something happened to this person, person's sofa, and they didn't want to say how it happened, but eventually they just spilled the beans, and let's just say it involved whips. And I sat there with my mouth wide open. It was crazy. I will tell you guys another time if you want to hear it. Our next story is from Neon Fuzzball. I didn't design your damn shirts, Karen. Tale from years ago when I worked for a consulting firm. Sorry if the details are a little fuzzy. This was a long time ago. I'm also long-winded and sleep deprived, so it's a rambling one. The office layout on my floor had 4 private offices that were for 4 different independent contractors. One specialised in graphic design, one in copywriting, one in media sales, and one in advertising campaigns. All of the assistants for these different specialists sat in one large room out front at our tiny desks. Each of us worked for only one of the consultants, but we were happy to pass on basic information to the other ones. We however had no contact info or calendar access for anyone else's bosses. I was sitting at my desk doing SEO work when Karen flung open the door violently, enough that it banged against the wall. I was the closest to the door, so I jumped and looked over. Karen took this as a cue to storm over to my desk and throw down a CD. "Did you people make this?" she snarled. I pick up the CD and look at her, no idea what the fuck she was talking about. Was my brilliant reply. "Did you people make this?" Oh good, the volume was the only reason I didn't know what you were talking about. Thanks, Karen. Karen snatches the CD back from me. "We had these t-shirts designed by graphic designer dude, and he gave us the files and the printer said they're all messed up. He ripped us off." I said, "Oh, so the graphic design made this for you? Well, he's not here right now." Karen launched into a loud, profane tirade questioning my ability, my education, my personal attractiveness, and parentage, which yeah, aren't the best, but that has nothing to do with her stupid t-shirts. I finally pull out my mum/librarian voice. I am neither, but you know the voice I mean. "Mom, Mom!" Surprising us both, Karen stopped talking. "Mom, I do not work for Graphic Dude. Best I can do is give you pen and paper to write him a note. But if you work with him, you should have his email or phone. Email is the best way to get in touch with him." "When will he be back in the office?" "No idea, I don't work for him. You best call or email him, or leave a note." She says, "Well, go into his office and check his calendar and tell me where he is." I said no, couldn't even if I wanted to. His office is shut and locked. "Well, unlock it." "I don't have a key, we just work in the same building." "Call him and tell him I'm here and I need to speak with him." I said no, I don't have his number and I'm not his secretary. Not really true, I have his number, but hell, I'm not playing receptionist. She says, "I spend a ton of money with you and I demand..." And I cut her off. "Mom, you do not spend a ton of money with me. I don't work for Graphic Dude." She said, yeah, you don't do the computer stuff, you're just the secretary. Now get him on the phone." I took a second to figure out how me sitting in front of a computer and using it when she came in equals not doing the computer stuff, or how secretary equals no computers. But this wasn't the brightest tool in the box, and she was giving me a headache. So I went to my boss and asked her to dislodge the Karen Barnacle from my life. My boss said, "Mum, I'd be happy to message the graphic guy." "Where is he?" "I don't know, you can leave a message." "Are you the manager?" My boss said, "Yes." And she's a consultant. She's self-employed by our own company, so I guess is our own manager. Technically mine too, but neither of us was sure what Karen was going for here. Karen said, "Well, I want to speak to the owner." My boss said, "Owner of what exactly?" Karen turns and points at me. I shit you not, this woman snarls, "That girl there." My boss and I are sharing a look. My boss says to Karen, very slowly, "You want to speak to her owner?" Karen nods, emphatically. "I want her fired." Other guy in the office pipes up, "Don't you mean disowned?" My boss glares at him. My boss says, "Mom, I'm her boss and I'm not firing her, and we have nothing to do with Graphic Dude. We can't help you. Please leave and try and get in touch with him. Please leave and try and get in touch with him on your own." More shrieking. Karen is now questioning both my and my boss's work ethic, personal grooming and voting preferences. My best guess is she got herself all worked up into a righteous indignation rage at the t-shirt issue before she came in, and she just transferred all that ire to me because I opposed her will. But her anger at me for not working for Graphic Dude is way out of proportion. Graphic Dude's assistant has walked into the office during all this, and being the accommodating soul he is, offers to look at the file. Karen stomps over and hands it to him, while he explains that Graphic Dude is out of town at a wedding and won't be back till Tuesday. Graphic Dude, by the way, does not do work outside the office, which upsets Karen more. The file opens up for Graphic Dude's assistant dude. It's some hideous summer family reunion t-shirt. Other dude looks at Karen. "So what's wrong with it?" Karen scowls. "The screen printer said the file is all messed up." Graphic Dude's assistant dude looks confused. "It's fine," and then Karen cuts him off. "No, it's not," she shrieks. Now the other guy is trying to explain that the file is fine, but she can get in touch with Graphic Dude next week. Not good enough for Karen. She keeps yelling while assistant dude looks at the image more closely. The assistant dude says, "Oh, are you Mrs. Karen McBitchface?" She says yes. Assistant dude says, "Okay, I can fix this for you." Karen smiled broadly, praising him in a sickly sweet, good puppy manner, and saunters over to us to explain how she's going to get us all fired and it's about time, blah blah blah. Assistant dude comes over and hands her a new disc and sends her on her merry way. My boss goes back to her office and shuts the door, telling me not to come get her if that harpy ever comes back in. I look at assistant dude, who is grinning. Assistant dude is a college sophomore Graphic Dude, grossly underpaid to gain experience, and he gives no shits, so I know something is up. I say, "Okay, assistant dude, what did you do?" He said, "Come take a look." On his computer is the image Karen wanted on her t-shirts, open from the disc she brought in. Freaking Comic Sans Muck Bitch Family Reunion 2020 with a dumb picture. "Okay," assistant dude said, "and here's what I saved on a new disc for her," and shows the same image where he's replaced the text with "Bitch pay me" and middle finger graphic. Assistant dude is smiling. "I remember her name finally," he said. Graphic Dude was pissed. She told him a sob story why she couldn't pay half up front like we normally do, and he made an exception. Then once she had the file, she refused to pay for it. Originally we were going to get the shirts printed for her, but she stiffed us and took the file and ran. She figured she'd just get them printed herself. I told Graphic Dude not to give her a print ready file for approval, but he thought since we're going to handle the t-shirt order. Yeah, I get it now. She likely went to a cheap local screen print shop that I happen to know doesn't have anywhere close to the latest version of any graphic programs. This comes up a lot in this office. If a customer uses that shop, the shop guy will try to open a save file from the latest version of graphic software and go, "Can't open it, go get it saved in the earlier version," and sends customers back. This Karen wasn't bright enough to remember anything past "file no work, you bad." And of course, you were all probably quicker than me and realised that it took a minute to dawn on me. Karen gave assistant dude her disc. He saved the new image on the disc and gave it to her. She left the original file in her office, so unless she was smart enough to make a copy, she now no longer has the copy she stiffed graphic design dude on. I'm sad to say she never came back in. I hate a story with no follow-up, but such is life. Myself, I hope she got the t-shirts printed without anyone catching the file change. Our next story is from Houston Red 2001. As I've told you before, I don't work here. I work for a non-profit organisation. We're in an office building and rent office spaces out to the other non-profits at a very cheap rate. Though we currently have one for-profit tenant, the Taxman. The offices have been a little crowded as we have increased staff size this past year. So how the building is set up, everyone entering has to come directly through my office to get anywhere else in the building. Rather annoying for me, but oh well. It is rather obvious upon entering my office which organisation I work for. I have signs and tons of paraphernalia pertaining to my organisation. Well, the Taxman is rarely in his office, as this is his secondary location. So typically, when his clients come in and see he's not there, they simply ask me to place a piece of paper on his desk for them or similar small task. The one client of the Taxman, entitled Cow, comes in rather often. But being the entitled cow she is, she speaks down to me and gives me many tasks to do. For example, she once came in, discovered the Taxman wasn't in his office and started rambling off to me. "I need you to give this to the Taxman. Tell him I didn't know what to put in XX section, and I have another question about XX, so I need you to have him call me immediately." I politely respond, "Mum, I don't work for the taxman. I work for a non-profit organisation which owns this building, but if you'd like to write down your notes for him, I'd be happy to place this message on his desk for you." "What an incompetent employee you are," she stated as she stormed off. This began happening rather frequently, at least every other week. Each time I was reminded that I do not work for the taxman, and I would often note that I have no idea what she's talking about. Each time she would insult me and leave. The last time she came in, about 2 weeks ago, she walked right up to me and said, "What do you even do all day? Watch Netflix? Your job is boring." I, politely as possible, said, "No ma'am, I run a youth volunteer program, run a countrywide volunteer centre, do all the accounting for the organisation, serve as a property manager," and listed off my very extensive job description for her. She laughed and said, "Yeah right, my daughter is about your age and sits at a desk all day watching Netflix. You can tell your boss whatever you want, but I know you don't do anything." What an entitled cow, right? Well, today, about 30 minutes ago, guess who waltzed into my office? That's right, the oh so lovely entitled cow. I told her the taxman is in, but he's currently in a meeting with someone else and she'll go knock to let him know she is there. She stared at me for a moment before finally leaving my office and walking back to the taxman's. 5 minutes later she walked back into my office and said, "It sounds like he's in a meeting with somebody." I said, "Yes ma'am, that's what I just told you." "Well, I'm not knocking and letting him know I'm here. You're his receptionist, that's your job." I said, "No ma'am, I'm not his receptionist, and as I have told you many times before, I do not work for his company. You can either wait back there until his meeting is over, or you can knock and let him know you're here. Either way, it doesn't affect me." She said, "Are you kidding me? I'm here for a meeting with him, which was supposed to start 5 minutes ago." I ignored her and walked out, only to pop her head in 2 seconds later and say, "Seriously, I'm not knocking." I said, "Okay," and she walked back to his office to wait. It's a small building and I can hear everything that happens in the hallways, so I can currently hear her sitting outside his office mumbling, "Seriously? Taxman, finish your meeting. You're supposed to meet with me. Frick your incompetent receptionist." Frick me, the incompetent receptionist of the taxman who just watches Netflix all day, right? Our next story is from Sendax. "I'm not a cop, lady. This incident was well over a decade ago. At the time, I was a supervisor for a state park. It was a Monday morning and I was getting ready to head into town to deposit the weekend's receipts when my assistant told me that our work truck, a 9-year-old beat up rust bucket of a pickup truck, was almost out of gas. I normally took my own car for the bank run, but took the truck instead so I could refuel it. After finishing the banking, I stopped at a convenience store to fill up the truck and pick up some snacks, figuring to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, I was in uniform, but it was the sort that's rather standard to parks. Khaki shirt, dark pants, department patches, and I had a badge and a nameplate. I wasn't a police officer. Our uniform did not look like any police uniform in the state, and my authority was strictly limited to the parks. Right after I entered the store, I heard an "Excuse me" from behind me. I turned around, and there she was, a Karen. "Yes, ma'am," I replied. She started on a rant about how her neighbours are feeding the bears, and one bear had destroyed her bird feeder. It wasn't my problem. I said, "I'm sorry to hear that. You should call the game warden." She replied, "No, you're a cop. You need to go over there and talk to them right now." I tried again to get through. "Mom, I'm a park supervisor, not a game warden. You need to contact the game wardens. I can give you their number if you want." It didn't sink in. Karen insisted that I drive over there to talk to them, adding she wanted them ticketed and that she doesn't understand why I wasn't doing my duty to take care of this. This from a woman who saw me get out of a battered pickup truck with a Parks Department logo. My uniform and patches and nameplate clearly say I work for the Parks Department. My patience was at an end. "Lady, one more time, I'm not a police officer. I have no authority to talk to your neighbours, and I've told you who you need to call. Please let me finish my shopping and get back to my park." With that, I walked away from her, grabbed some snacks, paid for them, and left, all while listening to her complaining to other customers about the lazy cops in this area who won't do their job. I just shook my head about it on the way back to the park. The next weekend, the game warden for the area stopped by to see how things were going and to check people's fishing licenses. I told him about my run-in with Karen, and he said, "Oh, so you're the lazy cop she was complaining about?" Yeah, she called and told me what happened. It turned out that her neighbours were the people who rented that place for a week and were gone now. He had to talk with the rental owner about it, but Karen had a virtual bear buffet in her yard, multiple bird feeders, a couple of large bags of bird feed on her back porch, and a deer feeding station she set up because, as she told the warden, she liked to see the deer. Karen got tickets for bear baiting and illegal feeding of wildlife, and almost talked herself into a couple of others by ranting at the warden about those tickets. We had a pretty good laugh over that. I love it when they get in trouble as well. It's just so glorious. So what is your favourite from today's stories? My favourite is that last one. I love it when they get in trouble in the end. Like, that woman was bear baiting in the end after complaining about it to someone else. Oh, God. Yes, I do like a I Don't Work Here Lady story, especially when they get themselves in trouble. How about you? Which was your favourite of today's bunch? And as always, because I just love seeing your comments now, some of the things that you guys come up with, try to include bear baiting in your comment below. If you did enjoy these stories, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell. And don't forget, if you got a story, put it on r/daddycringe. I still need some more stories for Sunday, so don't forget to include yours. And with all that being said, thank you once again for the time out of your day for being here. It is truly, truly appreciated. I cannot tell you how much. Thank you so, so much. And I will see you in the next one. Much love now.